Hi there. Hi, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well, having a good day, all that good stuff. It's beautifully sunny out, but unfortunately, when I went grocery shopping, I realized how cold it was. So we're almost to spring, not quite there yet, just a little bit closer. I swear, just a little bit. But yeah, we'll go ahead and get started today. I hope everyone's doing so well and having a great time. I was about to tell you about the show that I saw like last week, but then I realized me just drinking from my cup would give it away. I got to see Shucked last week at the Nederlander Theater. Go check it out. If you've seen everything on social media and especially Twitter about how it is about corn, it's about so much more than corn. It's fantastic. It's a really awesome original musical that is a fable, and it is so funny, absolutely hilarious book, and has such incredibly talented performers like Alex Newell. Alex Newell has a standing ovation partway through the show. Their songs are fantastic. You should just go check it out. It's always amazing to support original theater, especially original musical theater, and it's such a fun time. So go check it out if you can. And yes, so we're on episode 63 of Overtures. So much fun, so exciting. And I get to start with a clip. So here we go.
Don't ask me why I love you. It's obvious your tenderness is what I need to make me a better woman to myself. To myself, you're gonna save me from myself.
Such a good clip. Such a good clip. My guest today is originally from New Jersey, a fact which she is very proud of and, quote, probably too much, according to her. She's been performing since she was a kid and went to Wagner College for theater. She's been performing professionally since 2019, doing readings and workshops in New York City, regional theaters, and cruise ships. She currently lives in New York City with her boyfriend, Christo, on the Upper West Side. In addition to being a performer, she is also a vocal coach and spends a lot of time working with children at Book Nook, an early literacy learning center here in New York City. She's not only crazy talented, but also so dedicated and passionate about the projects she works on. So I'm incredibly excited to chat with her today. So without further ado, this is Brianna Brice. Hi. So happy to have you on here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. How are you doing today?
I'm good. It's a beautiful day, but freezing,
Yes.
shockingly, like you said. I mean, this weather has been so wild. It's freezing one day and then so warm the next. My allergies and sinuses are off the charts.
Yes, I
Have a good
completely agree with that. Yeah, exactly, especially when you're a vocalist, it's like, "Okay, how do I try and help my voice today?" I truly have no idea.
Yeah, no, and this winter has been particularly brutal with me for I've
Yeah.
just had like constant colds. So, I'm excited about warmer weather for that
You're
to
like
die down.
you're like, "Please, thank you, that would be incredible." I always
Yeah.
love to start by, going over how I know my guest, and typically it's Wagner, and it is again today. Um, I'm so happy that we got the time to work together on different things. Not a whole lot of shows together apart from, being wardrobe manager for Bloody Bloody, and that was a crazy time.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
I know.
That was a crazy time. You are so correct. Wow, what a great show, though. That
Oh,
show
so
was
much fun.
such a blast.
It was so
James Barry,
crazy.
he's the man.
Yes, and I feel like none of us had really gotten a chance to work on a show as crazy as Bloody Bloody, either topic-wise or vocally. It demanded so much more than I think anyone was ready for.
Yeah, no, it was unfamiliar territory at that point for me,
Yeah.
definitely. But it
Hadn't
was really wonderful to work with James and Carl
Oh
and
my
Ashley. It
gosh.
was such a great team.
Yes, it was so, so much fun. And then we did, however, get to have a directing class together with the wonderful, incredible Mickey Tenenbaum. And I feel like
Yeah,
that's definitely where I got to know you a bit more.
totally.
Yeah. Um,
Definitely.
and I'm trying to remember, had you had experience with directing before taking that class, or was that new for you?
That was very much new for me. Yeah. And that was one of those classes at Wagner that I had been so excited to take since I was a freshman
Yeah,
because I remember I think I performed in one of the directing showcases like when I was a freshman and like that's
right.
how I even found out it was a class we could take
Yeah.
and I just could not wait to take it. So that was class was a real joy.
Yeah, it was so fantastic, and we love Mickey. We both have gotten to work with Mickey on several different projects, and it's so awesome to take that class specifically with him. And I know we'll talk about your coaching and things like that later on, but did taking directing end up helping you with your coaching later down the line, or are those, like, different muscles of sorts?
I would say they are different muscles, but it definitely helped me learn a lot about commanding a room and just
Mm,
kind of like taking charge and just communicating with people in general um, as an actor and beyond
yeah.
or as a a coach and beyond anything.
Yeah,
um,
exactly. Because I think back to even when we were doing, like, the open scenes very early on where we only got all of these lines back to back that made no
mhm.
sense, and we had to, like, work with each other, like, at past, like, 10 o'clock at night in the common rooms trying to figure out how
Oh
to
my god,
stage those and, like, communicating those, and those were so crazy, but I could totally see where understanding, "Oh, okay, how do I command this room and connect to people or, like, communicate with people," would come really in handy with coaching later down the line.
definitely.
So going back to the beginning of things for you, how did you first get started in theater?
Oh my goodness. Well, I would say I first became interested in singing. That was kind
Gotcha.
of where it all started for me. My dad is a musician and he is a really fantastic singer. So I was kind of surrounded by music and singing and entertainment in general from a
Yeah.
very young age. But I always liked musicals. I saw Grease the movie when I was like 5 years old for the first time, and I was like,
Oh,
"What is this?"
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, for so many of us, and the classic old movie musicals. I
Yeah.
watched those, and I was like, "This is interesting." Um, but I didn't do my first like real community theater production or anything until I was in 5th grade, and it was High School Musical, and I only auditioned because I loved High School Musical. Like it wasn't
Yeah.
even because I wanted to like do theater. I was just like, I love High School Musical, and I it was the first thing I ever auditioned for in my life, and I remember getting a call back for Gabriella, and I was like, obviously, I'm getting it in my 11-year-old brain, and I did not get it. and I was shocked that I didn't get it. And it was just so funny. My parents were like, "What did you think? Like, you've never done this before." And I vividly remember my stepdad like sitting me down and being like, "Brianna, if you're going to do the theater thing, there's going to be a lot more no's than this." And he kind of like lightly explained to 11-year-old me that rejection is part of the process. But and I didn't want to
Right.
do the show. I didn't want to do the show because I didn't get the part I wanted, and he was like, "That's a terrible
Oh,
attitude." So that was kind of my first lesson in how to cope with stuff like that. But I did end up doing the show, and I had a little
good.
solo. I was the skater person that played the cello, um, and that was the first real show I ever did on a stage with costumes and lights and mics. And clearly, I must have enjoyed it to some degree because I haven't
It
stopped.
all it all grew from there. It all grew from there.
All from high
So I'm
school show.
curious. Yes, exactly, exactly. And I'm curious, what was your like overture or light bulb moment of like, oh, this is not only just something fun to do, but also this is what I want to do like for my career.
Hmm. Well, it's funny because I think from a young age, I just kind of was like, this is what I'm going to do. Like, it never even occurred to me that I might do something else.
Right.
I remember I must have been in like middle school. I sang in a singing competition for a radio station called New Jersey 101.5. If any of my Jersey people are out there, they'll know. But it's a radio station based down the shore in New Jersey, and they still do actually a singing competition every summer for young people.
Yeah.
And I told my mom I heard about this competition for some reason. I told my parents I wanted to do it, and I chose the song "Who's Lovin' You" by the Jackson 5. Don't know why. I just was like, "That's a great song. I'm gonna sing
Yeah.
that." And I was like 12, and so I had to get up on this stage on the beach,
Oh my
hundreds and hundreds of
gosh.
people covering the beach, and I wasn't nervous at all. I was just like electrified. I was like, I love this. I love everything about this. And my parents were like, "You're gonna get up there in front of all those people? Oh my god!" Because they knew I could sing at that point, but
Right.
they didn't know like that I really could. And
Right.
so my stepdad always tells this story where he says he was watching me up on the stage, and like all these people were watching me in the lights and everything, and he was like, "That's the moment I knew you could do this." So I guess it kind of was for me too, because I don't know, to get that validation from a parent is always like, "Oh, really? You think I could do this?"
Yeah,
So
exactly. Well, and to get
yeah,
up in
that's
front of that many people at such a young age and, like, not be scared, that's gotta be something at least, like, indicative that you that was something you could do.
yes, yes. I was like, "Ooh, this feels good."
Yeah. You're like, "I love this. How can I keep having this feeling? Thank you." Uh,
Exactly.
and one of the first shows that I think I ever saw you in at Wagner was, in Avenue Q as Kate Monster. And I'm trying to remember, was that your main stage debut at Wagner, or had you done one previous to that?
I had done at least one before that. My main stage debut was in before I don't know if you were there yet.
Hmm.
We did Damn Yankees.
Oh, yes, because that was the first show of the season my freshman year, so I didn't, like, know
Okay.
everyone yet. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was just like in the ensemble, like doing not much. But Mickey directed that,
Of
and
course, of course.
so that was a great time. That was my technically my main stage debut. I feel like there was something else after that,
You're like,
but
"I'm missing something, but I don't know."
I totally am missing something, and I cannot remember it for the life of me.
That's okay.
My sophomore year. I don't remember. That's so funny. Oh wait, no, my sophomore year was Damn Yankees, so I
Yeah.
oh, I think I had done like a stage 1 or something. I don't
Oh,
remember.
maybe. Yeah. That's okay.
I don't know. But anyway, uh, all that to say, Avenue Q was at least the first time I had like a role.
Yeah. Yeah, and what
Yeah,
and a
so
big role at that, because that was, like that's, like,
definitely
one
a
of
big role.
such a huge role at the very like, it's one of the 2 main ones of the whole show. And had you ever
Yeah.
worked with puppetry before that?
Oh my god, no. Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit, but it was the coolest thing ever because um it wasn't just like a normal rehearsal process at Wagner.
Right.
I think it was the first slot show, I believe. So we
Mhm.
all came back to school like a couple weeks early to start rehearsal.
Oh,
But
wow.
the first like week, at least a week of rehearsal was like puppet boot camp. And we got to work with the amazing Jennifer Barnhart, who was part of
Mhm.
the original Broadway cast. And she worked on our, production at Wagner with us. And she eventually taught puppetry at Wagner. And I took that
Yeah.
class, which was incredible. But yeah, that was the first time I ever thought about working with puppets. Always been a Sesame Street fan, though.
Yes, exactly. And it's funny though, because I'm so sorry. My cat is just like wanting to get all up in this right now. I'm like, girly,
Oh.
not the time. Not the time. She wants to say hello.
Oh,
But I'm sorry, hold on.
you're good.
um my goodness. Working on Kate Monster. You also not only played Kate Monster with Avenue Q, but you also played Lucy the Slut as well. So you were not
Yeah.
only playing like one character and doing puppetry for the first time, but playing two completely different characters that I'm sure had two completely different styles of puppetry within that too.
Kind of. They were the same type of puppet, like the Muppet
Right.
style. Um, but yeah, just to like get used to two different. I mean, we had a lot of puppets in that show.
Yeah.
Because we did like whatever they had done on Broadway is what we did,
Yeah.
pretty much at least. It's Ryan Gibbs, who was our director, he also
Mhm.
worked with the Broadway company and the tours and
Right.
whatnot. So he wanted to do it right. And so we had like there were multiple Kate Monster puppets.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I
I
can't
didn't
remember
realize.
exactly how many. Yeah. We must
Were
have
they
had
for, like,
like
different outfits or for, like, different, like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, gotcha. So you were
Different, yeah.
constantly handing off puppets.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, and
Crazy stage management job for
oh,
that
I can
show.
imagine. I can imagine. I'm just imagining, like, the tables off stage, like, instead of filled with props, just filled with different variations of, like, some of the same puppets.
Exactly. And that was for every puppet. So like, every
Yeah.
puppet had multiple puppets.
Oh my
So
god.
it was cool.
Yeah, well, and then to
Pretty
sing an amazing score from such as Avenue Q. So it's the doing puppets for the first time, changing off puppets, and singing a demanding score. That must have been like the whole process as a whole must have just been crazy, but also so rewarding.
Yeah, it was just so much fun. Like, truly. I just remember it being fun. I don't even remember being worried or intimidated because it was such a
Yeah,
welcoming and joyous environment that it was just a blast. And I loved that music. The dialogue is obviously so funny.
hysterical.
Um, yeah, it was just a great time.
And you're also such a talented actor as well. And I'm thinking about how amazing of a job you got to do in Stupid Effing Bird. And
Oh
that
yeah.
alone was also another crazy show, another show that you got to work on with Mickey. And that
Yeah.
show must have been such a blessing as well.
That show really I think it was like the first ever proper play I did, you know?
That's what I was wondering. Yeah.
I had done things in high school, but nothing, nothing like that. And so to be given that opportunity really was just such a blessing. I needed to be stretched in that way.
Yeah.
Um yeah, that show really tested me and I just had to, I had to do things I didn't even know if I could do. And
Yeah.
I did. So
Yeah. Well, and
um
because Stupid Effing Bird, Aaron Posner, like, requires so much of those roles, but it's also it's an adaptation of Chekhov, and that
yeah,
quote unquote very serious theater. Granted, Aaron's version of it makes it a little bit more fun and crazy, but nonetheless.
easier to swallow. So,
Yeah.
kind of. Still dark.
Oh, very
Very.
much so.
But that is one of those shows and one of those roles that I would love to revisit at the age I am now
Yeah.
because I feel like I could bring something so different to it. So I would really I mean that show is not done often.
It's really not.
But you never know. And also just that cast was phenomenal. My best
Yeah.
friend April was in it too and she was phenomenal and that was
Yes.
the best part was doing that with her.
It's
No
always
doubt.
great getting to do shows with friends you're so close to and getting to like
Yeah.
do those experiences together.
Yeah. That's why college was so special, one of the
Yeah,
reasons.
absolutely. I have a message in the chat here from Flora's TM says Brianna Brice for Alphaba. So we'll plug that real quick while we have the time.
Oh my God. That's Timothy Matthew Flores. He's a
I
dear
love that.
friend.
I love that. And you're oh, sorry, what did I have? Sorry. So we don't have clips from Stupid Effing Bird, unfortunately, but we do have
It's so funny. I was just
yes,
saying last night to Christo, my boyfriend, that because we went to go see Thanksgiving play.
yes.
So
How was
we
that,
just
by the way?
it was great. Really great script. It
Yes,
was really funny and excellent cast.
yes.
I mean, Darcy Carden was like phenomenal.
Yes.
But we were talking about plays, and I was talking about Stupid Bird because I was like, my God, that's I probably the first play and I think the last play I ever did.
Yes.
And Krista was like, "Do you have any footage from that? Like, I would love to see it." And I was like, we don't. And I
Yeah.
so wish we did because I don't even like remember being in it. Like I'm like,
Right.
what did I do? Was it
You're
good?
like
I don't know. Like,
you're like, I think there's production photos somewhere.
yes.
You're like, there is proof somewhere, but not in footage form. But I
Exactly.
do have an amazing clip of you acting in song. So I'll pull that up quick for us to watch.
Every day I need less of myself. I need more him. 'Cause his is the only music that makes me dance. 'Cause his is the only music that makes me dance.
Such an incredible rendition of that song. Holy heck, Brianna.
I love that song.
It's stunning. Have you seen Funny Girl? I haven't seen this one on Broadway.
I went to opening night with Bailey Claffey,
Yes.
and I saw Beanie.
That's amazing. How did you like that?
Yeah.
How did you like this revival?
I mean, I just love this show. So I knew
Yeah.
no matter what, I was going to be in awe. I mean, just hearing those orchestrations live, that
Yes.
alone was transcendent for me.
Yes.
So the bar to impress me was pretty low. Like I was
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna love this. But I am dying to go back because I want to see Leah Michelle and I want to see Julie Benko. Really
Yes.
dying to see Julie Benko. So I'll make it over there eventually. But
Yeah, I know.
I
It's
just
one of those things where it's like, "Oh, let me just find the time to go do that." But yeah,
it's long too. So
oh,
it's
yeah.
a commitment.
I believe that. I fully believe that. Yeah, I've really have been dying to see Julie Benko, so I am also hopefully wanting to get that done at some point.
Yeah.
So you'd mentioned earlier, and you've mentioned since your boyfriend Christo, and you guys met working on a summer stock gig. So I would love to hear that story about how you two met, if you don't mind talking about it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So feels like it was 5 minutes ago, but apparently it was 6 years ago, which is insane.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was just like a summer production of Grease,
literally.
the musical of all musicals,
Yep.
in the Midwest, classic summer stock situation. Um, yeah, I was Sandy and he was not Danny. One of the T words, Sunny. He was Sunny.
Gotcha.
I don't know. We just really hit it off. The whole cast was really fun, and I think Krista and I, it was just one of those situations where we were like, I like you. And we just kept hanging out that whole summer. And he's 2 years older than me. So at this point, I was going into my senior year,
Mm.
but he was already living in the city with people and whatnot. He lived with some people from Baldwin Wallace, so like he had just kind of like Christo never intended to do musical theater. He just kind of fell into it, which is hilarious.
That is
But long
hilarious.
story short, yeah, we got back to New York, and I was like, surely this is over. It's just a summer romance, and here we
Nope.
are 6 years later. So
Yep. Well, and you guys have even gotten to work together too, right?
yeah, so we did a cruise ship contract together in
Yeah.
2019 with Princess Cruise Lines.
That must have been so cool to not only, like, obviously go on a cruise and, like, do that whole contract, but get to do it with your partner as well.
It was really special, and we are
Yeah.
we are very, very lucky that we got to do that together.
Yeah. How did you end up, booking that gig?
So I believe it was like the winter after I graduated from Wagner, and yeah, I signed with an agent after graduating. I'm still with them, and it was just an audition appointment that they sent me on for Princess, and had an appointment. It was like a snowy day in January. And I was like, nah, that was okay. Like, I didn't think that I didn't realize it went well. And
Yeah.
turns out it did go well. And I booked it, not even knowing Christo was doing it at that point. Like, I booked it and said yes. And
Oh my gosh.
so Christo had worked for Princess Cruise Lines before we met. He like started doing ships when he was like 19.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
long story, he's back in college now. Funny enough, I can circle back to that. He originally went to college for dance, and he left to just start working because it worked out that way. So he had actually worked for Princess before, um and Christo also was working with our this agent at the time, and it just so happened that a male dancer dropped the contract, and
Wow.
so our agent was like, "Hey, any chance Christo wants to do this too? Because there is a spot available, and you guys could do it together." And we were like, "No brainer! Of course we'll do it together." This how often does this happen? So
Almost never,
that's kind of how it worked
exactly.
out. Very
That's so
random.
crazy. So
Yeah, it
funny.
was
Well,
really cool.
that's so amazing. And I can imagine also working on a cruise line when it's not a show that's like a book show, like a book musical, working on a show that is filled with various different pop songs and musical theater songs. It's a very different type of cruise experience than a lot of people have.
Very. Yeah, the contract we did, it was 4 review shows, but all very different in style. So, it was definitely, vocal Olympics happening.
Yeah, because if you're learning 4 different review shows, I'm sure it gets to the point where you're like, "Wait, what show am I doing tonight?"
Yeah. Yeah.
What were the various different, like, styles of the reviews that, you guys had to put together on that ship?
Oh, man. Truly everything. So we were on this ship called the Regal Princess, and, on that ship, they do, um, a classical show called Bravo, and it has
Mhm,
all, like, some opera music in it. I think I sang the flower duet with
mhm.
the other female singer. His name is Trish. She's wonderful. Um, that was entirely in French, so that was
Oh my
fun
gosh.
to learn. And then I sang "I Dreamed a Dream" on that
Yeah.
contract, also partially in French.
Yeah, I was, like, started the video
That
and I was like, "Wait, is this whole thing gonna be in French?"
just have it.
Yep.
That was one of them. So we wore like these gorgeous ball gowns, and the dancers did like such beautiful ballroom dancing. And then we had another show that was like a Motown review, and then we had this show called Fiera, which was like all pop music. And then this is actually really cool. Our 4th show was a review show called Born to Dance.
Mm,
Um, and it was actually created by Dan Levine. He's a director. He's also the artistic director of ACT, that theater in Connecticut.
Yes.
So he created that show, and Al Blackstone was the choreographer.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so that was really, really cool. And, of course, that was like the one I felt most connected to because it was all musical theater stuff.
Yeah.
But that show is actually really neat. So yeah, I mean, just all kinds of different stuff. We sang like "Can't Stop the Feeling." We had this like number to that song, and
Oh my gosh.
they on ships they'd usually do a sail away, and that was like a medley of pop music, all kinds of stuff.
And of course, we have a clip of you singing I Dreamed a Dream, so we're going to watch that for a sec.
But there are dreams that cannot be, and there are storms we cannot weather. I had a dream my life would be so different from this hell I'm living, so different now from what it seems. Now life has killed the dream I dreamed.
Gorgeous. And that set and the costumes, just like, oh, that must have been so fun to get to do that cruise.
Yeah, it was. The costumes were really cool.
Yeah. How long was that contract for?
um, it was including the rehearsals, which were about a month in California. It was from April-ish to November.
Gotcha. And that would have been 2019 still.
Yeah. Yes, this was 2019.
Gotcha. Well, definitely nice that you got to fulfill that full contract before like the pandemic and things like that came up as well.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, because I
Absolutely.
I couldn't even imagine having to deal with that in the middle of a contract, especially on a cruise ship. But I'm curious, were
Very.
there aspects of cruise ship work that surprised you or didn't surprise you?
Um, hmm. What didn't surprise me was just how fun it was. Like
Yeah.
I knew that it would like the travel would be cool and the costumes and the music. So I knew it was going to be really, really cool. So that was fun for all of that to
Good.
come to fruition. Um, I think I, I think that what surprised me was just how isolating it can be.
Mm,
Um, just because you really are kind of on this floating little city, just seeing the same people all the time. And,
yeah.
those people were wonderful. And I was lucky because I was doing it with Christo, of course. So we had each other. But it was really hard not to see my loved ones for that long.
Yeah, and also getting in contact with people when you're on ship too is, from what I can tell, very spotty at times, and it's very difficult, like, connection-wise and things like that to get to the internet and that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely not the easiest to communicate with people. It's possible, of course. There is
Yes.
Wi-Fi, but not great Wi-Fi.
Yeah, exactly. And so since then, since a pandemic has happened, you have recently done an industry reading for Funny Face. So I'm curious what that whole process was like. Was that like a 29-hour reading scenario?
So it was, I believe it was 6 days total,
Oh,
5 or 6
nice.
days total. So we had a couple days. That was really cool. I had never done a reading like that before.
Yeah.
Um, so it was really exciting to be a part of a work that was in development and just
Mhm.
hearing brand new arrangements because it's all Gershwin music. So
Yeah.
of course, knew some of the songs, but they were all new arrangements by Michael Rafter, who he's the music director on Funny Girl right now, conducting that gorgeous orchestra.
Yes.
So his arrangements were just stunning. And just, yeah, to work with to work with such brilliant artists. I mean, everyone, it was just a week, but I still like remember I didn't know anybody. But I was just so impressed by how fast everyone was learning everything and
Yeah.
adapting to changes so quickly. It was really fun.
Yeah, and because I also wonder when it's such a short amount of time and it's for a reading, so it's working on new material so that the authors can hear it and that kind of thing. How does the job of an actor change as opposed to when you're gearing up for like a performance, I guess?
Um, well, I was in the chorus of it, so my job was relatively easy compared to the people who were playing the principals, just because
Right.
we all were getting new material every day, but they were having like entire solos
Changed.
rearranged and words changing. So I guess just you really have flexible and
Yeah.
just understand it's not about you. It's about this
Yes.
piece, and we are here to work together and make it come to life.
That's awesome. Did you have a presentation of the show, like, at the end of the week kinda thing?
Yes, yeah, we did on the final day.
That's awesome. That must have been so nice though too to, like, get to do the whole thing in its entirety and be like, "Okay, we did a lot this week."
Yeah, definitely very fulfilling.
And then also you are early in the stages of planning a solo show. Can you tell us anything about that and what led you to decide to put together a solo show?
Yeah, so to be completely transparent, very early stages. I mean, truly just an idea in my brain at this point. But I have talked to some people that I'm interested in collaborating with on it, so
Yeah.
it has some life to it. Excuse me.
No, you're good.
I don't know. I think there's in this industry there is so much that's out of our control.
Mhm.
And I'm like, how nice would it be to create a little something that is in my control?
Yes.
And just I love singing, surprise. Um, so I just think it would be a really cool way to honor some of the music that I love and sing some of these songs that I haven't sung for anyone in a really long time or ever.
Yeah.
Um, just to create something, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we're I feel like throughout college and beyond, we're always told, like, you need to, like, create your own work and things like that because you won't always have those jobs that come to you and so on and so forth. But also sometimes when we sit down and go, "Okay, but, like, in terms of creating something for myself, how do I do that?" So, I totally understand where it's like, "Okay, I guess I can start something and try and figure out where it'll take me."
Yeah, and it's hard too. It's because there's so much insecurities, like so many insecurities that come into play, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, who's even gonna want to come to that show? I don't know.
Yeah.
Or it feels almost self-indulgent in a way. I'm like, oh, like, is this like weird? But just so silly because like of course artists are promoting themselves all the
All
time
the
and
time.
everybody that shows it. It's a ridiculous way to feel, but it is it's just tough to put yourself out there in that way, especially when it's something you're just deciding to do. It's different when like I'm
Mhm.
offered a contract. I'm like, oh, somebody wants me. Somebody
Right.
wants to work with me. With this, it's just like I want to work with me.
Yes. And you're trying to
And
find
then
people to go, "Will you come with me and help me with this thing?"
yeah, so it's vulnerable for sure, but I think it will end up being something really special when it
Yeah,
happens eventually. I
exactly.
want to like hold myself accountable for working on it, but I also don't want to like create too strict a timeline.
No, of
So
course. I totally understand that. Well, let me and let the show know when and where you decide to do something because I would love to come see it because it's gonna be amazing, whatever and whenever it ends up being.
I will keep you posted.
Thank you, thank you. And you spoke to this a little bit earlier, but you currently have representation, and everyone has completely different journeys when it comes to getting an agent or a manager, and I'd be really curious to hear about your experience with that.
Sure, yeah. So I mentioned before I did a summer production the summer before my senior year of college, and
Mhm.
I was one of the younger people in the show. So a lot of people that I was working with had already graduated and they were already like
Mm.
actively auditioning in New York and living in New York. And so a couple people in the show were signed with my current agent. And I I guess he maybe saw clips of the show, or and I think that the director of the production was friends with him, so we kind of
Mm.
just became connected through this grapevine of people. And when it came time for our senior showcase that we did at Playwrights Horizons in Manhattan, I invited him, but I didn't just like invite him randomly. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
my friend, and blah blah blah, blah, and he came with people that I knew. Um, so yeah, that was how we got connected, and we freelanced for a little bit, and then ultimately signed and still working together.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's so nice to hear that journey of you guys like kind of found each other and connected kind of early on, but then didn't end up working together until a little bit further down the line. Because I think a lot of people who are very early on in their stages of like wanting to get representation, be it like an agent or a manager, it's wanting to like constantly stay in contact. But sometimes it is
Mm,
those relationships over time that are sort of like, oh, okay, hey, I'm doing this thing. If you want to come by, kind of
yeah,
situation, you can
it
like come
definitely
see it.
is.
Yeah.
It's so tricky. I mean,
Yeah.
it's definitely not easy to find representation, and I do feel fortunate that I was able to kind of find rep that I found in a pretty authentic way. It just kind of happened
Yeah.
naturally. But I not to use like a trigger word, but networking is a
Yeah.
big part of this industry, and you know, just don't hesitate to talk to people and get to know people, and it put yourself out there, as tricky as it can be, and it's a big
Yeah.
part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been wanting to ask you this question because I know you're going to enjoy it, but I was like, when do I place this in the order of what we're talking about today? And I feel like now's a good like change of pace. So to you, what makes New Jersey superior than all the other states?
Oh man, I mean, New Jersey, the state of New Jersey, the great state of New
Yes,
Jersey,
the
just
Garden
kind of has
State.
a little, the Garden State, as they call it. It just has a little bit of everything,
Yeah.
Gorgeous beaches, we got it. Some more rural areas, we got that. Cute suburban towns,
Mhm.
charming main streets and downtowns. I and I think there's just, I don't know. I love being from New Jersey, and I love that people hate New Jersey. I think it's hilarious. Um, but just I don't know. Anytime I spend time away from New Jersey, I'm like, oh, I miss it. It's just home. It's just home.
Yes.
Some incredible musicians have come from the
Yes.
state of New Jersey. Incredible singers. Um, I don't know. It's just a great state. I just love it. I don't even know what to say. I sound
Well,
ridiculous
I
right
mean,
now, but
look, no, at this point, it's great to hear this because you've also like had Wawa like repost your pictures before, like,
I have. I'm also a big coffee person, and so I have a coffee Instagram. Um and I have
your friend in chat confirmed. She's gonna say Wawa.
Wawa is a huge part of why I love New Jersey so much.
Yeah. No, agreed, agreed. As someone who grew up in the Midwest and then went out to the East Coast for college, I'm like, look, where is our equivalent of Wawa? We don't have one, and I think it's upsetting, frankly.
There you go.
But there we go. Um, so I know something that we wanted to chat about for this live episode was the fact that there are so many performers out there who are good at so many different things, and that it's okay to be a performer who has dreams about things other than performing. And I'd love to hear you speak to this.
Yeah, so this is something that I have talked about and thought about a lot in recent years. I think I've always been someone who was interested in a lot of different things. And I was fortunate to explore that at Wagner a lot,
Mhm.
with the directing class, with all the different workshops we did through Tab,
Puppetry.
being puppetry, being president of the theater advisory board. That was a really
Yeah.
cool experience for me, and
Mhm.
really showed me that I enjoyed being in a leadership role. And I really found a lot of joy and satisfaction in bringing like a community together. Like, even if they were just for like little classes, like it made me
Yeah.
feel really proud that that was something that I helped organize. Just little things like that. And I guess during the pandemic, which, you know, we're still in it, but at the
Yeah.
early days of it, I think many of us had to dive into other interests head first because live performance just was not happening.
Right.
Like, period. It just wasn't
Yeah.
happening. And only recently has come back. So
Yeah.
it was during that time that I had been doing vocal coaching a little bit, but not, it wasn't like a primary source of income or even like a big part of my life at that point. But that was the time where I really got to dive into that because I had time to for the first time in a while. So that was that combined with a babysitting job that I took on during the pandemic. I
Yeah.
worked with these two little kids while I was living at my parents' house in New Jersey at this time. And I just was babysitting for this family. And through that and through vocal coaching, I realized how much I love working with young people.
Yeah.
Whether they're 5 years old or 17 years old, I really enjoy children and teens. So that was something I learned about myself during that time. And also just watched a lot of great TV during the pandemic. And I was like, wow, like I love TV shows. Like I would
Yeah.
love to be an actor in TV and film or write or whatever. Like I think it's, and I don't know about you or anyone else who might be watching, but at points in my life I have experienced some guilt almost
Yeah.
for feeling interested in things other than performing in musical theater.
Yeah.
And I've been like, oh my gosh, like because I'm interested in this other thing, does that mean that I'm like less dedicated to being a musical theater performer?
Right.
Because how many times have we been fed the line, if there's anything else you want to do with your life, you should do that.
Yes.
I hate that phrase.
It's so funny how much that line comes up on this show too. And like,
Really?
and kind of like for and against on both sides. And I think it shows how much it can ring true and like how much it's like, well, that's not great because a lot of us wear multiple hats. And I think that fits
Sure.
perfectly for what you're saying.
Yeah. And you know, of course, like I understand the sentiment being like, it's a really demanding career. So
Right.
unless you're, you know, you got to be really willing to throw in the blood, sweat, and tears. Of course, I understand that. I'm
Yes.
living that. I fully am aware of how difficult this career is. But I also think there's a lot of beauty in letting yourself explore other things that speak to you and other things that fill up your cup and make you feel like a more wholesome human being.
Yeah.
And it's also totally fine if you don't want to do anything else. If you just want to be a musical theater performer and you don't care about anything else, that's fine too.
Yeah,
I think that
exactly.
both qualities are admirable for sure.
Yeah.
But for myself, I have struggled a lot with, oh my gosh, I really like teaching. Do I want to be a teacher and quit theater forever? And it's like, I have learned it doesn't have to be so black and white. I think that
Yes.
there's room for both. There is so much space for all of the things that we want to explore as humans, as artists, and etc.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a beautiful way of putting that. Like, it doesn't always have to be black and white. There is so much room. Like there's so much time in the day. If we're doing all the same thing all the time, that can get kind of exhausting. So by like dipping your feet into different things that are not related, it just makes you feel more either well-rounded or just a little more bit more balanced sometimes. And I'm wondering for others who are perhaps going through similar struggles of going like, I don't know about this, about having these other interests. Would you have any advice or thoughts from what you've worked on that have helped you get through that?
I mean, to be completely honest, therapy.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
working with a therapist has definitely helped me formulate a lot of these thoughts and work on these feelings. So, you know, I'm not creating this myself. But I think just letting yourself, like if you're interested in writing, start writing.
Mhm.
And I feel hypocritical saying this because
Yeah.
I have things I want to do that I haven't started yet. And it's just hard to start new things for so many
Absolutely it
different
is.
reasons, but I do think that we just need to walk through the doors that are open sometimes. And you never know where that could lead. And it could lead to your next great adventure. And it could be the best thing that ever happened to you. Who knows? I think
Yeah.
it's another thing I've been working on is acknowledging the beauty of possibility
Yeah.
and just like not fearing, like, oh my gosh, like my life could go in so many different directions. That used to really scare me.
Yes.
I used to be like, oh my God, but like, I don't want it to go in a bunch of different directions. I want it to go in this direction. And that direction is musical theater professionally. And
Right.
that's the path. And yes, that is a path I'm on for sure.
Mhm.
But I'm excited that path could lead to a whole bunch of other paths potentially. Maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know. Anything could happen. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to remain, optimistic and excited about all of the different things I could get into and all of the different
Yeah.
people I could meet. I mean, that's the best part of this whole industry for me is the people. I'm like, I just love this community. I love people. I love meeting new people, working with new people. I love connecting people. I love, it's just,
Yeah.
that's the best part.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can imagine also with your I always hate to say like day job when we're in musical theater because like our jobs always like connect to what we're doing anyway. You're working with children at an early literacy learning center, Book Nook. I would love to hear how you got into this, and I'm sure also it fulfills definitely that those other sides of you that you were talking about.
Yeah, totally. So I have a couple of side jobs that I got going on.
Yeah.
I babysit. I'm a vocal coach, like I mentioned, but yes, I work at an early literacy learning studio for early childhood education
Mhm.
called Book Nook, and they have several locations throughout the city. Actually, and they just opened one in New Jersey. Funny enough.
Oh, funny.
Anyway, I started working with them like 2 years ago. And it really has nothing to do with theater at all. I
Right.
mean, it is pretty academic based, and I I remember applying to the job, and like one of the qualifications was like must be a great storyteller, and I was like, well, I can certainly do that part. And it's just been a really um, it's been kind of a soft place for me to land
Mhm.
in the chaos of life and theater.
Yeah.
I been just a really lovely place to work, and working with children is so much fun for me. I love kids. They crack me up. They are so inspiring. Um and it hasn't, it's one of those things where like it's not really like connected. It's connected to, my essence as a person and my general interests, but like it's not
Right.
connected to the theater industry whatsoever. It's a completely separate world. But it's allowed me to connect with a lot of different people.
Mhm.
Some other people I work with are also artists. Plenty of artists work there. But there's also people who aren't at all. They're people who went to school for education and they're teachers. And I've just
Mhm.
learned so much from all of the people I've worked with. And yeah, it's been a really cool way to explore um the education in not industry field
Yeah.
um you know without like fully committing to becoming a teacher or whatever.
Right.
Not that I'm not a teacher there, but it's not
It's a
like I'm
different kind.
teaching in
Yeah.
school. It's a different environment, but yeah, it's just been a good time. Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
I've enjoyed the work environment. I've enjoyed my coworkers very much, and it has confirmed for me that I really enjoy working with children.
Yeah. What ages do you work with there? And is it like a situation of helping them read books, or is it kind of getting into like more of the nitty-gritty of like helping them to like read on paper and things like that?
So kind of all of that. The primary thing I do there is I actually teach like the grown up in me class. So like these little babies, they're like not
Oh,
even 2 years old. They're like 15, 16, 17 months old. Um, they come with their parent or a nanny or a guardian, and they come and we we play and we have like a circle time. And so for those kids, they're obviously so little, like we're just
yeah.
focusing on like, you know, attempting to color or
Yeah.
recognizing colors, whatnot, stuff like that. But I do that, and then I do work with some older kids on reading comprehension and handwriting, stuff like that.
Yeah, gotcha. That makes sense. No, that's so cool, and that, like you said, it's that nice break of like, I love doing musical theater, but it kind of gives you that break of like, okay, there's this other thing that I love. Let me put a little bit of my heart and soul into that for a moment, and then come back. Because sometimes it's nice to have that like that break and revisit of a different passion to kind of get the creative juices flowing again when you start singing a song again or what have you.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um,
absolutely.
and then, of course, you were a vocal coach, and you started that, of course, during like the pandemic. What made you to decide to start? I know you were talking about love of working with kids, but I'm curious if was there anything else with that that helped you decide to start?
Yeah, so it all kind of started. Funny enough, I had a teacher when I was in fourth grade who I just kept in touch with over the years. We just like
Yeah.
we really hit it off and just always kept in touch. And then my brother had her, so did my sister. So she, my mom and her became friendly. Whatever. Her daughter, who she was pregnant with when I was in her class, um, became interested in musical theater, and
Mm.
she didn't know what to do. So she knew that I did musical theater, and so she reached out to me and she was like, my daughter is really interested in theater, and I might be biased, but I think she can sing. And she's like, I don't know anything about like how to get her started. Like, do you
Yeah.
coach? And I was like, I do now. And so she was my first student. I was like, okay, let's give it a try. And of course I was transparent. I was like, this is new territory for me, but if you're willing to be patient with me, like I would love to give this a go. And so
Yeah.
she was my first student, and I just quickly realized how much I loved it, and started putting myself out there, advertising a little bit more, mostly in Facebook groups.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I just started working with a lot more kids like her, just kids who were like, I think I like this, and let's give it a try. And yeah, so it's still very much like you know, a part-time situation for me. But
Of course.
I do have like 10 regular students
That's
who
awesome.
yeah, so it has grown quite a bit in the past couple of years. I'm, not quite ready to make the leap of making it one of my like actual sources of income.
Right.
But I could see that happening at some point. So
That's awesome. What age groups then? If you have 10 students, is it like a wider range?
kind of. I think my youngest is 10 or 11.
Mhm.
Um, and then I actually have my oldest student that I work with is actually a friend that I went to school with growing up. She's 27,
Oh, that's
and
cool.
she just wanted to get back into singing. She wanted to do something for herself, and so we started working together. So I do work with some adults too, but primarily teenagers.
Gotcha.
That's my
Gotcha.
biggest, my greatest, whatever. You know what I'm trying to say.
Like, yeah, like you're kind of like your strong suited, like the sweet spot kind of thing. Um,
Actually, yeah, I mostly have teenagers, but open to
yeah.
anything.
Yeah. What's some of like your, I guess, philosophy when it comes to like coaching or working with people on their materials?
Mhm. So I would say across the board for me, it is nothing is more important than creating a safe space
Yeah.
for these young people. And I think that it's unfortunately very common in the arts that young people end up working with adults who are not safe people.
Mhm.
And they, for whatever reason, these adults cross boundaries with these kids. And, it can obviously get kind of dark. We don't need to get into that, but
Right.
I've heard so many stories of people I grew up with who I did shows
Mhm.
with, and then they're all of a sudden coming forward now being like, yeah, like that person actually wasn't a safe person for me, and it really tainted my experience of doing theater growing up or taking
Yeah.
voice lessons or dance or whatever it was. So, I think that it is such a gentle thing to work with young people. They are
Mhm.
so impressionable,
Yeah.
obviously. And so it's really important to me that like these kids and these young adults know like, we're good here. Like we are safe here and whatever you want to explore in this hour together, like let's go for it. And of course we're working on singing mostly. I'm also like, I've of course get into technique and whatnot, but I mostly like just to coach like
Mhm.
storytelling through song, and
Yeah.
finding material for people and whatnot. Um, but yeah, I just want people to know that like I just want people to feel comfortable because I think
Yeah.
so often it is not comfortable to work with a coach. Um,
Mhm.
not I of course there's so many wonderful teachers out there and I've certainly had
Absolutely.
wonderful teachers, but I've also had experiences where I'm like, oh, like you actually don't bring out the best in me, and maybe we're just not
100%.
a good fit. Maybe we're just not a good fit, and maybe I'm not going to be a good fit for some people, but I do think that a teacher's job in any situation is to bring out the best in the person they're working with, and just like what beautiful thing are we working with here, like let's get into it. And
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that so much because I feel like with myself personally, I definitely grew up in a situation where I was like, I don't think I gelled with a voice teacher, but I also felt like I couldn't explore other options because that would be like, I don't know, a slight against them as opposed to just like finding a teacher that worked for me or a coach that worked for me. And I think that that's perfectly kind of what you're speaking to in terms of like finding a safe space and doing the best for the student. And that's what matters most is making sure that the student is able to work on something that again brings out the
yeah.
best in them and keeping them safe in a room and all that good stuff. And I think that's wonderful, and so many students need that, and I'm so glad that you get to be that for all of these students that you have.
Yeah, me too.
How can people get in contact with you to set up a coaching session if they're so interested?
Oh, they can email me. It's just my name, Brianna Brice, and then voice,
Mhm.
briannabricevoice@gmail.com.
Beautiful, beautiful. And we're pretty much at the end of this episode, so where can people find you on social media and all that good stuff?
Again, just at my name, at Brianna Brice across the board.
Beautiful, beautiful. And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Laura_Marjoram, as well as my website, www.lauramarjoram.com. You can find this show on Instagram at Overtures Show. You can also search on YouTube, Overtures Show. Subscribe, comment, join us live, say hi. Always fun to have people participating live. You can also follow us on Spotify and Apple Music. This will eventually become a podcast episode, so go check that out. And then we also have a Ko-Fi page, so if you feel so willing to buy us a coffee of sorts to support this show, then I can keep talking to wonderful, talented guests like Brianna and bring you all some amazing talent here on the show. My next stream is going to be Saturday, April 8th at noon with Miles Wilkie, another Wagner grad, incredibly talented
Oh,
student. I'm so excited to talk to him. It's going to be a blast. But Brianna, do you have any final thoughts for viewers live and in the future?
oh man, I don't know. Just thank you to anyone who's listened to me talk this much. I think just hang in there.
Yeah.
Hang in there, everybody. Times have been tough the past couple years. Like we're all doing the best that we can, and I think that's pretty good right now.
Yes, absolutely. I completely co-sign that. So with that, I hope everyone has an amazing day and we will see you later.
All
Bye.
right. Thanks, Laura.